Hello, my name is Gary Brewster, 64-year-old American, served in the United States Army. We're here under a new podcast, The Union Divided, which the last time this phrase was used was mostly during the Civil War, which cost America 620 to 780,000 lives. Do I think we're that far? No. But I think if we don't do something, we are going to be that far. The main purpose of our organization is to use the First Amendment to peacefully demonstrate and petition the government to bring about change. It is my belief, and the belief of many others, that our government and outside forces have been working together to divide us as a nation. They have us divided amongst political parties mostly. They have us divided by race, by immigration status, abortion, religion, economic status, and the list just keeps going on and on. We have two whole divisions in our country right now, mostly along political lines, of how we are going to survive or not. There are many different issues we need to address during these next 100 days before the election and continuing on afterwards to force change. We'll be asking people to sign in for petitions. We'll be asking you to help us in our declaration for a united union and to stop despotism and authoritarianism. So this is where we're headed today. Well, this is just a general intro as a test run. So there's a lot of things going on. I think it's important for people to educate themselves as to what this country was to be and what it started as and where it is today. I don't believe anybody that's done any thinking or consideration could argue the point that we're divided greatly. And these divides, I believe, are to lead us to a civil war inside ourselves. That there's so much civil unrest that possibly leads to martial law, leads to lockdowns again. We're verging on the brink of war with three superpower nations right now: Russia, China, which also could include North Korea, and definitely Iran. None of these are good for America. We've all just experienced an attempted assassination on Donald Trump. With or without party involvement is not the issue here. The point of anything to me would be that how many of us actually trust our government today? How many people feel something's up? We have one side that says, oh, Trump imagined the whole thing. They planned it to get sympathy and to get the vote. And we have a larger group saying, no, there's something very amiss here. At a minimum, complete incompetence. We haven't seen these same kind of accusations since JFK and Robert Kennedy assassinations, Martin Luther King's assassination in the 60s. Then we have Joe Biden, who was the nominee for the Democratic Party, headed into their DNC, and all of a sudden he's withdrawing. So these are big divisions. Who should take his place? Who should run for their party? All these things are sitting here dividing us, and we fight and argue over it. But meanwhile, our whole country is suffering and falling apart. We have big issues that we want to bring up. Things such as a petition that our government has absolutely no authority and no power to surrender our sovereign to any world organization. The World Economic Forum, absolutely not. They have no say in what happens in our government. They are not elected officials. They are not even mostly from America, or at least their power base. Same thing with the World Health Organization. The WHO should never have that authority, ever. They are nothing to us. The people have never surrendered that. I want to read to you the Constitution preamble, because this is the contract between American citizens and our government, how we created a government. And it's a very simple but elegantly written piece from 250 years ago. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That is us giving them permission to govern us under these guidelines, not their guidelines, not a modification or anything else. You'll hear arguments about the Constitution being outdated and it's been changed so much. First off, the changes have to be approved. We're not supposed to be going to war or even involved in foreign affairs without a vote from Congress and the people. That's it. It's not supposed to be an executive power. All that was subverted and given to them. You will learn over the next few months that the check and balance system that our founding fathers fought so hard for and worked so hard to create a good balance has been completely subverted. Hungry people for more power, for more position, just keep changing things. They're trying to change how the entire U.S. Supreme Court works right now, how the federal courts work right now. They're using, or at least it's believed by most, that they are at least to some degree using the Department of Justice, the FBI, prosecution, and criminal courts to go after people that they don't agree with. So the power to be at the moment can decide how they're going to do that. That's not what we elected anybody for. Not Democrat, not Republican, not Trump, not Biden, not Obama, not Bush, not any of them. But it is what we live today. That said, I'm going to read this piece for a second. This was written in 1796 in George Washington's farewell speech. And I think we're going to have to start addressing what's going on with these two parties. So Washington was forewarning everybody about the visions of a nation as big as ours. I think he was saying this when there was like 13 to 18 colonies / states being developed and growing, and a mere fraction, a small fraction of the number of people we have today in America, let alone with this vast land now. So he had warned and warned about these factions of parties and how dangerous the two-party political system could become over decades and generations. In his quote, he says, with slight shades of difference, you have the same religion, manners, habits, and political principles. You have, in a common cause, fought and triumphed together. The independence and liberty you possess are the work of joint councils and joint efforts of dangerous sufferings and success. And then he comes directly to the party issue. However, political parties may now and then answer popular ends, they are likely in the course of time and things to become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be enabled to subvert the power of the people and to usurp for themselves the reins of government, destroying afterwards the very engines which have lifted them to dominion. These are dangerous times when this is happening all around us. It raises the question of what we have for a form of government. Our government was supposed to be a republic where we went to elect our officials and they executed the will of the people, not the will of a party, that they acted in our best interest, the best interest of a constitutional republic, not how to grease their own back pocket, how to grease their bank accounts, how to make their family wealthy for 20 more generations, how to sell us out to other countries, how to play this big corporate game. I hear people talk about our Constitution and the Republic doesn't work, or capitalism don't work. If you go back to the original definition of these things and the way they were supposed to work, it does work. What doesn't work is a perverted version of either one. And right now we have extremely corrupt and perverted versions of a Republican Constitution and government and of capitalism. And when that happens, it cannot work. So the true definition of republicanism, of a Republican government, is the founders read that Republican government was the one in which the power of government is held by the people. The people give power to the leaders they elect to represent them and serve their interests. The representatives are responsible for helping all the people in the country, not just a few, and definitely not just the people on their party side. If that were the case, we would be electing people from both parties and having them slug it out in their best interest. They do end up in there together, but not every district is doing that. All right. So we have gotten back to that. Now, oligarchy, which I believe is where we've headed a lot with the corporations, is a small group of people having control of a country, organization, or institution. Right? That means that they're not elected officials. They're people that have just taken power. And this creates an authoritarianism, which is definitely the enforcement of advocacy of strict obedience to authority at the expense of personal freedom. So we are giving up personal freedoms every week, month, year, whatever you want to count. And it's a slow erosion that people don't see and feel and grasp at one time. But that's what happens. And now, you hear them talking about, oh, socialism's okay, socialism this, socialism that. We have never voted to be part of socialism. Socialism becomes authoritarianism, becomes tyranny, becomes despotism. There is no turning back. It's never been any other way. It just never works, because you can't keep taking from the people that have and giving to the people that have not. What it creates, especially in today's day and age, with the change in our diets and a way of life and everything else, and jobs and income, we end up with a country that is sitting here feeding people not to do anything but go along with the government. They become so dependent on the government, they can never raise their voice against it, because who's going to bite the hand that feeds them? They're just going to keep going along. And going along has gotten us where we are today. And that doesn't work at all. So I want to read something to you that every military member, and I believe there's about 26 million veterans in the United States, plus the active military service right now. All of us took an oath that we never were unsworn from. It says, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. I obey the orders of the President of the United States and orders of officers appointed to me. That is, given that they are lawful orders. When you're given unlawful orders, you have just the same duty, because those people are now becoming enemies, foreign or domestic, of the United States. The powers do not care when you're defending the Constitution. That is the oath we took. Not to defend land, not to defend you, but to defend the Constitution, because without the Constitution, none of us have anything that we should be claiming that is ours and that we want. It changes our whole future, changes everything about this country. When they wrote the preamble to the Constitution, came many years after the Declaration of Independence. And in the course of our time together, we're going to ask people to be considering a declaration for unity, for declaration to restore the Constitution, to restore our republic, and start holding people accountable. I want you to think about writing this to a king that was the most powerful military force on the world at that time. And these are what these men risked their life for. Think about the wording here. And whether you're religious or not, at that point, that's all they had. All right, so think about this. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. So what they're saying is, we gave that consent. They wanted to get it back from the king and then give it back to the people. That's what the Declaration of Independence was, declaring independence from him. It was a death warrant for the people that signed it if we lost, right? And they believed that we had the right as people to create our own government, a government that worked for the people, by the people, of the people. We don't have that. I don't care who you are or what you really want to believe. If you're honest with yourself, we do not have that. They gave their consent to be governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, which is where we are today, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Think about that. These guys were out to create a new form of government. A government that in 104 days after the Revolutionary War is won, that they sat in the sweltering heat of Philadelphia in a building and wrote out. 104 men putting this together. Now we all know there's going to be issues and people are going to be crying, why weren't women involved? Trust me, most of these men were talking to their women. And there is the big issue of slavery. There is the big issue that there weren't equal rights to everyone. But this country has worked and fought to change that. We cannot sit here and bicker over what happened 200, 300 years ago and not learn from it. The division has to stop. What's at stake is your country. Your entire way of life is about to change. Let Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, let them really come to war with us. Let us keep wasting money and spending money on everybody else's problems and not at home. Let us keep bringing in 30, 60 million illegal immigrants and not feeding our own homeless. You know, your property taxes. Right now, the average person is giving up, the average working person is giving up close to 40% of all their income in some form of tax. State, federal, local, whatever. 40% of your money is to feed this machine. That's not counting the money that you're getting killed for on inflation and the money that they're controlling in your 401ks, the corruption in Wall Street, the stock market. All these things are playing into your loss of money. At any minute, you people can lose your bank accounts. At any minute, you can lose your 401k, your retirement, and you're struggling. What if the power goes down? What if any of these things happen? What if the power goes down because of an enemy attack? We don't want these things to happen, but we have to unite and we have to start saying, how do we fix these things? If Wall Street's broken and all it's doing is taking money from us, the common person, to feed these big power-hungry and greedy people, then we need to stop it and fix it. Why are companies short-selling to begin with? The stock market should be there to help build companies, not bet against them, not to crumble them, not to knock them down, let alone to make millions and billionaires out of people who bet against the company and then played a part in its own destruction. But most of you don't know that. Why do we have lobbyists? Why are big corporations buying our politicians after we vote them in? What was the sense of us voting them in? They're not executing our will. They're executing the will of their party, or they're executing the will of their people that are funding them. How do they keep getting richer? How do people making a couple $100,000 a year end up being worth 30, 60, 80, or $200 million? Or their family anyway. How does that happen? You know, why are they allowed inside trade on Wall Street, on the stock market, and we're not? Nobody should be allowed to. But that's the way it is. Let's go back to this reading. So these founding fathers weren't just going to put this word out to the world without setting forth what it was. They say that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is a right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and institute a new government, laying out its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Now here's their point of how rare it is to say these things and to take this action. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them, the people, under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government and to provide new guards for the future security. We owe this to ourselves. We owe it to our kids. We owe it to our grandkids. We owe it to our posterity that we do not allow this to go away, that it becomes some changed system. Why are we answering to the who? Whoever would give the power to somebody outside the United States? There's nothing in this Constitution or in the Declaration of Independence that would ever allow that to happen. We have lost about 1.5 million men and women, American citizens, who gave their life in this country for that Constitution. 1.5 million. Do we just throw that away? That averages about 13 people a day every day of our existence. 13 people a day, every day. That's why they wrote this. Why do you think the First Amendment tells you exactly how to keep, as the people, to keep that government check and balance? But what has happened is they've taken away those means. Oh, you can get a permit and go out and petition and do this and do that. But you cannot get any action in a courtroom. Tell me how you're going to petition the government today. Oh, we just elect our officials. And then what? They just do what they want to do? They do what their party tells them to do? They do what they got to do to make $10 million over the next 6 years? That's not what we elected them for. So we need to start thinking about how to hold them accountable. And this whole form is going to be suggestions from the people. Bring it to us. Let's get to the websites. Let's get in there and write these things. Let's look at these things. Let's sign petitions. Let's tell them that we want to be able to recall. You don't want to do your job? You don't want to keep your promises to us? We'll just recall you and pull you out. Goodbye job, goodbye power. Let that happen enough times, and the check and balance system all of a sudden works again. Right now, only 19 states have a recall, and that's inside the state elected officials only. None of them for any federal officials. Why? Why can we not say you made us a promise? You made us 32 promises, and of those you've kept 3, and you actually went the opposite direction in 20 of them. Why can't we say you're not performing your duty? If we were running a company and we had hired these people and we were sitting on the chair because it's our company, our power, we would just say, you're done. Get out. You're done. Get out. I didn't hire you to make the other guy more rich. I didn't hire you to give away our power. The power in the Constitution was the people's. We gave it out carefully to the federal government and the state governments. The Senate was supposed to be 2 representatives representing the state's interests. And then some other jobs like holding impeachment hearings and getting people to come in as approving people for non-elected positions. So that was their job. And somehow we've gotten away from too much of that. And everybody just wants to do what everybody wants to do now. You know, every great conqueror, every great warrior leader has always said the easiest way to beat your enemy is to divide and conquer. People were divided. We're afraid to talk to our family about elections. We're afraid to talk to people and say, I really believe that Joe Biden's doing a good job, or the Democrats are the answer. Oh my God, here comes a war. Everybody wants to start and argue. You know, they've made people, and I'm telling you now, I'm not going to try to get into my politics, because right now I don't like either party. I think for the last several elections, especially presidential elections, that the 2-party system has failed us miserably. Now, obviously, we only have 100 days left. We're not going to change that. So people need to think about their vote. You know, but you need to start thinking on facts, not what you want to hear. This isn't, oh, my wife tells me I'm still a good-looking guy. No, you're 450 pounds. You haven't bathed in 2 days. You're not a good-looking guy. Quit lying to yourselves. Quit hearing what you want to hear. You're not okay. Food costs, inflation, energy costs, all these things are killing us as people. But they're going to make us live on the brink. There's gangs in different cities, Chicago, New York, California, different places. They're sitting on the edge of a war because of the immigration. So immigration is providing a great catalyst. Why would somebody want to create a war inside us? Why would they want to create all this civil unrest? Because if it happens, they get to declare martial law. They get to hold off an election. They get to fight. They get to shoot people down. They get to do whatever it takes. Why are they building 15-minute cities? Did any of you vote for that? No. No. We're Americans. We have a vast country that we like to travel and see. Digital money. Oh, wow, it's nice having a debit card. It's nice having a credit card. But what if that was your only form? What if, like last week, when the system goes down? What if that was your only form? What would you do? What are you going to do when someone tells you you've bought too much meat already this week, this month, this year? What are you going to do when they say you've traveled too much? You've spent too much money on fuel? You know, are there issues with the environment? Yes. But do we have to take away everything else? I'm not going to let you take away my beef. If I have to go get my own cow, we're going to do it. But I'm not going to let you do that. You're not going to have me eating bugs. You're not going to have me eating lab meat. But the sad thing is they can do it now and I don't even know it. None of us are approving these things. They are deciding these things. They decided not to let us have fuel in our own country. They were dependent on people. Who moved all of our jobs out of the country? How come we're not manufacturing anything? We can't even go to war without being dependent on other countries to bring us stuff. Some of these countries are not our best friends right now. Our dollar is failing. Globally, our money is not working at all. Everybody's moving away from it that can. The ones that aren't is because they depend on us to help fund everything. So they can't. But that's what's happening. What happens when the dollar fails? What happens if the rumors or the conversations about bank failures are looming right ahead of us happen? What if, to hide that, they shut down the entire infrastructure again? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You spend your last money that you're able to get out of the bank before that? You're going to break off little pieces of gold and silver and take them out there and trade them for stuff? How are you going to feed your family? If the energy goes down, there's no way to keep food cold anyway. How far will people go to feed their family? They keep from hearing their kids cry. Total civil unrest. That's what will happen. The predictions are, without energy, that we could lose as much as 70% of the population of the United States, especially under the stress and turmoil we have right now, the unrest, that we could lose as much as 70% of the United States in 90 to 180 days. 70%. That's an astonishing number. So we are open on our forum, on our website, which will be under a Union Divided, to have people sign in and start making suggestions, address issues that we need to address. How do we get past this divide? I don't like so-and-so. I don't like so-and-so. I don't like what he says. I don't like what he did. You know, that's fine. But nothing's ever been solved by making us divide and hate each other. Nothing except for our own demise. The only way to win this is to unite, to get back together, to be unified, to use the First Amendment. You know, we hear all this talk about the end of the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. Do you know why it was really there? To give the people the right to say, you will let me exercise my First Amendment. If I cannot exercise my First Amendment and things get that bad, the people have arms for a reason. God help us that never happens. I don't want to be here. I don't want to live it. I don't want to be the person asking for it. I don't want to be anywhere near it. But that's why it's there. Period. Because all throughout mankind, now these are people who had no television, no radio, just books and conversation. That's all they had for entertainment and education. That's how they did it. They studied history. They knew that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That greedy and powerful, lustful men would always seek to get more. And that's what happened. And they knew it was coming. If you ever have the time, read Washington's farewell speech from 1796. He really addresses almost every one of these topics. And he's really trying, I think Harvard Law, I believe, has a really good copy of it. But you have to start studying. You have to learn. You know, when people go, oh, they were so picky about who could vote and stuff. Do you really know why that was an issue? They only wanted people that were educated and that had an interest. That's one of the reasons why the property requirement was there, that you had an interest in the outcome. So you didn't go out and vote just willy-nilly. Well, mom and dad are Democrats, mom and dad are Republicans, so I have to be. Or I swore I'm going to always vote that. Well, the guy you're voting for is the biggest crook in the world. Oh, he's my party, though. No. What if he's treasonous? What if he's selling out America? What if he's destroying the very freedoms that we fought for? What if he's destroying your ability to be able to pursue happiness, to enjoy liberty, to have prosperity for you and your family, to make money, to do anything? What if all you're doing is being taxed to death? Oh, wait a minute. That is what part of the war was about. We have to change people. We have to get united. We have to stop this stupid bickering and division and fighting. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what country you came from, especially if you're here illegally. I really don't care. You earned that right. I was in the service with people that got their citizenship through serving their country. They were the proudest people there was. We have to start thinking along those lines. I don't care about your religion. I don't care if you don't believe in anything. That's your choice. That's what this country was about. I don't care if you make $50,000 a year or $250,000 a year. I only care that you know that there's a difference. And a lot of people have been stifled for generations in their ability to ever get ahead, to ever have anything, to ever have a voice, to ever have financial freedom because of that. Because of just the way they were born. Maybe the color of their skin. Maybe where they were born. Maybe the fact that their parents were drug addicted, alcoholism, or anything. Ask yourself why these things are happening. How were people able to predict that COVID-19 was going to come before it was ever here? Why are they predicting now that there's different forms of global events that are going to shut down everything and we're going to have to go back to lockdowns? When did we start predicting these things? Who the hell is Bill Gates? Who are you to tell people this? Who are you to be sticking stuff in people's arms and bodies that you are not a scientist? You are not a medical professional. Stay out of it. Why are you buying up all of our land? These are the things we need to start addressing. Who allowed China to start buying up all of our land? To buy land next to all of our military bases? These things are dangerous, people. We have to start addressing them. I'm going to sign off for now. That's my first initial run at this, and we're going to see where we go. Please join us at our website, which will be up soon under a divided union, a union divided, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much.